Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fusion 360 for FTC series. This is the 10th video in the series, and if you haven't watched the first 9 videos, I recommend you do so by clicking on the card in the corner. In the last 3 videos, we've looked at how to take your 2D sketches and turn them into 3D bodies. Hopefully you're feeling pretty solid on that at this point. Today we're going to be looking at constructing planes. So what are planes? So far we've only worked with really the planes that are by default, which are the origin planes, which are centered around the origin point. And today we're going to take a look at how to create other planes. And so what are planes used for? So they're mainly used to create sketches. Sketches are a lot of how you create your bodies, but they can be used in other tools such as measurement, mirroring tools, or aligning tools. So it's mainly used for sketches, but it can be very useful in other tools. So we're just going to go right in and take a look at the constructing planes. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at is up here, and we're going to look at the offset plane. It's under the construct menu. It's the only one with its own dedicated button at the top here, but you can also find it in the drop down. So what the offset plane does is it takes a plane that's already defined and it makes another plane that's a distance that you specify away from that. By default, planes, you can select the body, a flat body, a flat body face as a plane, so we can select the top of this cylinder or the top of this cube or the side of this cube. We can also select the origin down here. If I just hid my bodies for a second, I could select the origin as a plane to use in this. So if I select let's just select the top plane of this for now. And you can see now I have some options here. So I have two options. It's a distance and to object option. So we are pretty familiar with the distance and to object options. It would work just as you would expect it to. If I selected to object, then it would go towards that object's face plane, and it would update properly. If I just keep it on distance, we can specify our distance, and if I did 50 millimeters up and clicked OK, we would now have a new plane that's 50 millimeters above this top plane. Very simple, very useful. Let's take a look at plane at angle. And the input that plane at angle takes is a line input. So we have some lines here. I could have selected the axis lines here at the origin, but if I just select this line on this cube that's been created, I can see that it now takes one more input. We know it takes one more input because the angle is undefined, but the positioning for this is defined. So all we have to do is we have to input our angle. So if I wanted one at 30 degrees, we would now have a plane at 30 degrees, and this plane will be at 30 degrees from this top plane. Let's take a look at the tangent plane. So the tangent plane takes a cylindrical or conical face. So this is a cylindrical face, a conical face, so it would be a cone. You can use this on wheels, you can use this on a lot of different things. So if I select this face, it now takes a input, which is the angle. Again, this plane is going to be tangent to our cylinder here on this cylindrical face, and we just have to specify where that is, what angle it is. So if I change this to 90, let's say, then it would be 90 from where we selected. So that now we've just created a plane tangent to this cylinder. Next, let's take a look at the mid plane. This one's very useful. I think I use it. The ones that I use the most are the tangent plane, the plane at angle, the mid plane, and the offset plane. Let's take a look at the mid plane. So the mid plane, you select two faces, and it just makes two planes, and it just makes a plane in between. So if we selected these two planes, we would now have a plane in the middle of our cube. And the nice thing about this is if I was to go back and I was to make this cube, instead of 50 millimeters, I was to make it 60 millimeters tall, we could see that this is updated properly. If I go undo, you can see that it moves down and it moves up properly. So this is very useful for creating planes in between, and that's a very useful feature. Let's take a look at the plane through two edges. And this is the first one that does not require, except for the midplane, it's the first one that does not require some sort of angle input or distance. So if we select this, it's asking for two lines. So if I select the top left line and the bottom right line on my cube, we're going to get a plane going through those two lines, and it's intersecting. We do not need any more information. We're already fully defined. It knows the angle between those two lines, and it knows where to create that plane. Let's take a look at the plane through 3 points. And this one is pretty similar to the plane through two edges, because as you may know, a line can be defined, or a line segment can be defined by 2 points, and the second line segment only needs 1 point really to be defined, because it just needs to know the angle. But this is somewhat a more broad of a tool, as you may not always have compatible straight line segments that can be used with the two line tool. So if you have some sort of spline or something, you can have points on the spline and use this. So if I selected these 3 points, then I would have a plane going through this way, and that is defined by these 3 points that we've selected. And for all of these, you can add points to your sketches and then turn the sketch on by clicking the eye icon here. If you've made a body out of your sketch, it's automatically going to turn it off, but you can turn it back on. And that allows you to use points in your sketches to define the planes on your body. We have 2 more planes that we're going to take a look at. The plane tangent to face that point, and the plane along path. So for the plane tangent to face on point, again it takes a cylindrical or conical face, and I've added some points to my sketch in here, and we're going to use these points to define where it is. So instead of inputting the angle after you've selected the face, instead you just define the point, and then it figures out where it needs to be, because it's going to be tangent to the face at that point. So if I select this, and I select this as my point, it's automatically going to know that the face needs to be there, and it's tangent at that point. That's its point of tangency. So pretty similar to the tangent plane, just instead of an angle input, it's a point input. And the last one that we're going to look at is the plane along path. And this one's a little bit different. So a path, we could select this line as our path, and then the plane would just be along this path here, which is this line segment. But I have this spline here, which I made, and I did not create a body out of it, so I can still see the sketch. It's just here in the workspace. And if I selected this, you can see that as I drag this plane along the path, it conforms to the path's shape. So you can just create a plane anywhere along this path, and you have some options here. So if I change this to physical, it would then measure the length of the path. So the length of the path is 123 millimeters about, and we could just input a distance such as 50 millimeters, and then it would snap to 50 millimeters. Yeah, so that's going to do it for constructing planes. In a few videos, we'll take a look at how we're going to use planes to create the little chamfered edges on our nut. But I encourage you to play around with it and give it a try. It's pretty simple. You just choose the plane tool that you need and get it where you need. In the next video, we're going to be looking at creating axes, it's in this drop down here, and then after that we're going to be looking at creating points. So hopefully you'll feel pretty familiar with the plane tools at that point. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video.